I've been saying on this channel that I'm cautiously bullish, and I will show you one of the reasons as to why. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and did you hear about the foot-shaped automobile that broke down? It got towed. In this video, I'm going to show you the Magnificent 7 stocks and what I'm seeing on each of those charts for the Magnificent 7 companies. I'll also give an update on Bitcoin. And if you guys want to see how I'm playing this market, see my buys and sells, you can check me out at the Patreon. You can also see my options course. I use options all the time with my trading, including my day trading. And I stay consistently successful by using technical analysis. And I'll tell you later how you can learn about that. In the meantime, let's get right into the charts on this thing. So we're going to start off with the indices on this. So we're going to start off with SPY, QQQ, IWM, and then we'll get quickly into the Magnificent 7 stocks. So what we have right here, when we look, is this little window of bullishness that I think that we could still see with some upside resistance coming in on the SPY at about 477. Yesterday, we peaked out at 477.45. We closed at 476.57, so just beneath it. And if I stretch this out a little bit, you can see a little bit better on that window up here to this side that we could possibly see still 480 possibly coming up sometime in the near future if we can break through this resistance that we have. So moving over into the NASDAQ 100, through its ETF QQQ, or the Invesco QQQ Trust that we have here, we have resistance still a fair ways off, coming in about 413, so we'll be watching for that one. And right now the volume's looking good, the momentum's looking good, although it is declining, so we need to keep an eye on that. Even on a weekly basis, even when you look at the SPY, I'm not going to go back to it, but if we did, you would see that we're not in the overbought territory anymore. We're still in bullish territory, although it is declining. It's something that we want to keep an eye on as we continue to look at the charts and track them and monitor them. The small caps, Russell 2000, another one where we could see a little bit of bullishness come out of here, especially if we see some of the money come out of the Magnificent 7 like we did before and watch the rally continue. So it is possible if we break through resistance coming in at about 196, 197, that should we break to the upside on this, that we could still have another run at 200, and then above there 204 and 207. So we're going to be watching for that. Now, about the Magnificent 7 stocks themselves, we know that they've been on a tear recently after a little bit of selling off. And, well, what we want to do is take a look and see what the charts are showing us across each of them. And I'll tell you what, I think it's 5 out of 7. They're actually looking pretty interesting. As a matter of fact, maybe even 6 out of 7. So let me bring this up here. We're going to start off with Microsoft. So check out the formation that could possibly be building up on Microsoft, especially if we get another touch to the upside up here. So for Microsoft, that would be at about 390 is about what we're looking at, maybe as high as 395. But we got to be careful that should we break through the bottom of this trend line, that could be bearish for us and we could be heading back down. So we would be watching for that one. So this rising wedge pattern is a bearish reversal pattern, especially if we break down through the bottom. That would confirm it. If we break through the top, that's a very bullish thing. And then we have this trend line right here to pay attention to, that breaking down through that would cause it as resistance. And then you could possibly, depending on where we're at, have this as support, depending on, like I said, if we break through the resistance in the first place. But like I said, the rising wedge pattern, it is a bearish reversal pattern. It is not confirmed, but we do want to keep an eye on it to see if we keep on filling it out and to see which trend line we break out of. When we go to Meta, take a look at this. I don't know why this one's red, but it's red. Let's switch it up to purple. Purple's just a more fun color, I suppose. That is a way different purple, but I'm done messing with it. So we have the same sort of look here. Again, we don't totally have confirmation. It'd be nice to see a third touch up here, but I still think that these are very reliable trend lines that you see on here, that if we break down through the bottom of this, we could actually have a decent tumble coming off of it. Now, mind you, this yellow line up here is Meta's all-time high, and that comes in at 384.33. That could also be significant resistance for us, possibly being that catalyst, that push down that we get for Meta that would break us down through this bottom trend line. Again, like I said with Microsoft, break through the top of this thing, bullish, and we could see a little bit more bullish action coming out of it. We are in the overbought territory. When we look at the RSI for Microsoft, we're actually just close to it on a daily basis. And if we go out to the weekly chart, for that one, we are actually just barely at the borderline coming out of the overbought territory. So Meta on a weekly basis, when we look at it in the same regard, we are actually in the overbought territory on Meta. So we got to be watchful for that to see if that's something that we break out through the top or the bottom of this trend line. But I do think that we're going to continue to wiggle in between those trend lines until one of them is broken. So let's move on from there into NVIDIA. NVIDIA, much smaller pattern from the recent rise that we had through what we saw with Microsoft and what we saw with Meta, but still with the recent run-up that they have, we're running into that rising wedge pattern, and I think it's more likely at this point in time that we break down through. I said 350 could probably be a cap for us, and in the pre-market hours we hit $549.99 as that high price. So we want to be watching for that. It is possible after this sort of run, we don't have a lot to explain a continued rise for NVIDIA. And so that's one that possibly needs to settle a little bit in the near term. Mind you, I have my NVIDIA stock price prediction and earnings projection that I'll be updating this month. That I do have that ready to go. I do have my prediction for 2024 already set all the way up through 2028. So you could go ahead and check those out over at the Patreon. And like I said, I'll be making the newest quarter and also for the full year 2023, we'll say, even though it doesn't match totally their fiscal calendar. Their fiscal calendar actually, I believe, goes January to January. So that's why they report earnings in February, towards the end of the month, towards the middle or the end of the month. So for NVIDIA, be watching on this one too to see which trend line is broken, because it could possibly pull back for us in the near term. I am long-term bullish on NVIDIA, and I think that there will be further upside from here. I think it's probably going to take a little bit of time for us to see that, but we're going to have to watch and see what the market does. Moving over to Amazon, surprise, surprise, look at this. Another rising wedge pattern coming up here, and you can see that we possibly have about that 158, 159 of the cards. We actually have these lines crossing each other at about 163, but we want to watch and see which trend line's broken. And like I said, we have the momentum there. The momentum's strong, the momentum's good, the market momentum's there, but we do want to watch big tech, especially where QQQ is involved, because it's something that can really cause us to be cautiously bullish, like I've been talking about for the markets, especially where QQQ is involved, and we have big bank earnings coming up. That could be one of those catalysts that we're looking for. This video is also being recorded before the inflation report, before CPI and PPI, although I think that those will be positive. I think some of that positivity could possibly already be priced into the markets, and so I don't know. We should get some upward pressure from it if they're good, if they're positive like I expect, but should we go too strongly to the downside on inflation, that could be downward pressure on the markets, possibly signaling too much deflation, meaning that the Fed over-tighten and then has to backpedal really quickly, although that could bring along those rate cuts. But that's a very nuanced thing for another video. Getting into Google, look what we got going on with Google. We have a rising wedge pattern happening with Google. The momentum's good. As a matter of fact, the momentum's building for Google. It is possible that we break through the upside and that we see 150. That would be bullish for Google. So we don't have this sharp and really steep incline in Google's prices. So this is one that might not necessarily be as convincing as the other big tech that we have, although they will influence each other. So we do want to be watching for that, like I said, to see which trend line we break out of. That's the weekly chart. Drilling down to the daily chart, we're still in bullish territory, not overbought, and we're really darn close. We're actually butting up against resistance as of yesterday in the markets. So be watching for that one. This is kind of flat-ish compared to some of the other ones that were a little bit steeper. Now, mind you, some of that can be attributed to scale if we zoom out, but you'll notice it doesn't really go too peaky on this one. But if we do break through that resistance that we have green lights up to 150 for Google. So be on the lookout for that one. And then for Apple actually already had its rising wedge pattern take place, and it actually already broke out of that formation. And it's one that I can tell you that I just flat out missed. I'm not going to catch all of the different technicals that could possibly happen. Sometimes it's ones that you don't even realize until after it did happen. But the formation was absolutely there for us. They came down, they retested. And so for Apple, I don't think is going to suffer necessarily the same fate. Might be influenced by the other ones, but we want to keep watching that 200-day. We bounce there. We might return back to it, but if we bounce again off that support, we retest, or even this trend line that we have right here, I think that Apple could still possibly move up unless the overall market really tanks, in which case then it could draw Apple with it. Still cautiously bullish. Need to break up over its 50-period moving averages right now, which are about 188, and then the EMA is still about 188. So when we see that movement up, the fact that the EMA is pulling down this way, EMAs are more heavily influenced by more recent price action. So that's why it's a little bit lower when we see the little drop here for the 50 EMA versus this blue SMA coming up this way. So Apple got to break up over those 50s. Now about Tesla. For Tesla, we're in this symmetric triangle pattern right now, and we broke down through yesterday. We actually closed down below this yellow support line, which is a pretty darn critical support line that we're looking at. So we closed at 233.94, and this critical support line that I have on here for you is rocking in at about 235, 236. But we did catch on to what we have here. So we'll see if we continue to break down through that, because this purple line could actually be a false line. The white lines that are on here, the symmetric triangle pattern, I think is where we could possibly come down. We did smooch the 200-day. And you'll notice we came up off that yellow 200-day that I have right there. So we'll see if we get squeezed and we end up popping back up above this resistance line that we have and the 200-day bouncing off of it is a bullish thing. Passing down through it is a bearish thing. So I did tell you guys, if you want to see how I'm playing this market, you can do so by going over to the Patreon where I have my Tesla stock price prediction and earnings projection. Like I said, I'll be updating NVIDIA's very soon, and I do use options all the time, not only in the day trading that I started getting into, and that's been very successful so far, and I look forward to a very fruitful future to bring even more results. Yesterday was it was just over $700 in day trades yesterday, on top of a little bit more gains. I think I had an 15 or 18% profit intraday still on TQQQ. I'm not holding on to it very long because, like I said, cautiously bullish. Even the overnight risk is something that I tend not to want to sweat at this point in time. So at least not for the options plays. But I do have still some of them out there, like JP Morgan, for example. I currently have a short play on that, but there's the earnings risk. You got to watch for that, because if they have astounding earnings and break to the upside and they don't actually continue in the bearish direction, then that's something that could very easily impact the option that I have. And options risk, there's a lot of people that would get out of that. Now, about technical analysis itself, I shared a lot of technicals in this video. There's a ton that are in this course, and there's a massive discount right now. Coupon code TRADE. You can go ahead and get that. It uses something that StockMo refers to as the bread recipe, which is about the moving averages, Bollinger Bands, what you get through the RSI, and there's so much more that's packed in here, including there's a series on options on how do you know when to buy, call, or put options that I also included in there, a 3-video series. I'm very excited about it, and the private Discord community. People are over there all the time talking about the results that they're getting. They're also talking about helping each other, asking questions. It's just a wonderful learning community, and where people are there to support each other and celebrate the victories and offer support and you know, even if asked for, critiques about what went on with the different trades. Like I said, I absolutely love it over there. So cautiously bullish on the markets, especially where QQQ is involved, the NASDAQ 100. It is tech heavy. We have the Magnificent Seven in there, which are going to be large influences. And right now, with those rising wedge patterns being so predominant, I think it is possible that we could possibly get to that peaky moment in the markets sometime soon, and then we have a significant move back down to the downside where those prices go through and not necessarily correct like a 5 to 10% drop, but that we should have a little bit more of a give back sometime in the near future, at least based on what I'm seeing, unless the market really does rally and we pop through the top side, such as maybe we get the rate cuts sooner than expected, which could temporarily be bullish for us. So that's what I have for you guys. Check out the Patreon link down in the description. See what I'm buying, selling, how I'm playing this market. Talk to me and my other community members. Get the options course that's also being developed over there, in the technical analysis trading course. Go ahead and check that out. Massive discount. Less than 30 days left on that expiration, or for expiration on that coupon code TRADE. So make sure that you take advantage of that. As always, guys, thank you for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.